I want to establish myself as a bespoke services company. I want to have unique solutions that customers are looking for to solve the problems that are really hurting their heads and giving them pain in their hearts.
Hey, good morning. I'm Ken Carkhuff. I'm the Learning Director at Defense Acquisition University. This is a real special opportunity for me. I normally have a podcast, all things small business, but today we're going to flip the switch where I'm actually going to be the interviewee, and I'm participating with a colleague, Kevin Switick. He's the owner and founder of AVIAN. It's a company that does a lot of things, and you're going to hear a lot about this during the podcast. So we're going to tag team off of each other today, but the focus really is talking about the Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business Program, what it means, some of the things that are out there that DoD is using for the program, but even more importantly, when you're a highly successful, as Kevin's company has been, what happens as you go through the success, and what do you do beyond success? What does that look like? What do you need to plan for? But because I'm sitting here in his office right now, I do have to say that this is not officially through DAU, so everything I express, my opinions, my viewpoints are all my own. They do not necessarily reflect the Department of Defense or DAU or any of the defense agencies, but I'm really excited about this. Kevin, thank you very much for offering me this opportunity, and happy Good Friday, not Good Friday, but a good Friday morning to you.
Yeah, it's a good rainy Friday.
Good. Hey, you know what? It's a surface warfare day out there. Kevin and I both flew the same helicopter, 860s for the Navy, so I'm sitting in the aviation tactical officer seat, and he's sitting in the pilot seat. So We're going to get through this together, Kevin.
Yeah, Ken and I go way back. Ken knew me when I had hair, but I just thought I would when I found out Ken was in his new position at the Defense Acquisition University, I thought this would be a great chance for us to just talk about one of the things that's been perplexing me for almost 5 years now. As Ken said, we started this company maybe 17 years ago. I joke that we built it through clean living and good looks. We were two engineers, test pilots, building a company with little idea of how to actually run a business, and we just used common sense to get it to a certain point. But then we reached a period of success where I looked around, and I think the moment that I realized that I was probably in trouble was when I was going through an annual financial review with my accountant, my tax accountant, who was from Baltimore. He came down to visit, and he would sit there with this state of the company, like health of the company financial report, and he'd walk me through it and talk about all the different metrics that he would use to determine the health of financial health. And in the past, it was always blah, 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 blah. Yep, you guys are very healthy. And I was like, okay, great, move on. But this particular year, I had my company accountant in there with me, and Len started talking about the financial health of the company, and I'm listening and I'm shaking my head, pretending I know what he's talking about. And all of a sudden, he started talking in tongue. He was saying things I had no clue what he was talking about, using words I never heard of before. And then my accountant started talking in tongue, and that's how I know the two of them are talking in tongue. And I'm sitting there looking back and forth, smiling, nodding my head like I understand what they're talking about. And I said, man, I'm in trouble. I got to really learn this stuff if I'm going to take this company to the next level, because we were facing small business graduation. It was coming fast. And I realized right there and then that I had two choices. Choice number one was I either replace myself with someone who knows what they're doing or train. So I started to reach out to the Small Business Administration and all the other agencies that I knew of that provides excellent training to help you go from nothing to something to start. And I said, what do you have training-wise to help business owners like me go from something to graduation? Get us out of the way of the small startups. I was a larger small. Be great for me to graduate, move out of the way, give them room to move into. And there was nothing. There was nothing there. Everybody said, hey, that's a good idea. But I was on my own. And so I had to go out and figure it out on my own. So since you're with the Defense Acquisition University, I said, this is a great opportunity for us to talk not only about the startup of the company and the Service Disabled program, but also just that concept of where do you go? What do you do? You've been successful. And it's time to graduate, because it's not easy.
So graduation is a big thing. I mean, you think about college graduation, commencement, everything. The 8A program is geared on graduating from the 8A program and being able to stand on your own. You still stay in the small business program, but graduation is key. So you touched on a couple things. And one, statistically, veterans probably have the highest percentage of being successful as entrepreneurs. And you're a clear example. I mean, veterans, they've operated with the equipment, they know mission, they're able to react, they're quick thinkers. There's a lot of reasons that veterans are highly successful in business. And Kevin, you're to be commended. I mean, I can literally remember the day that you and Jeff walked into the small business office at NavAir.
Yes.
The two of you, two good young-looking men, still good-looking, and you said, "Hey, we want to do this." And I said, "Okay." And then our boss was there, and she's thinking, "Okay." And you kind of gave us an example of what you were going to do, and you said, "I think we can do this." And you were off and running. A couple of years later, I was working at the headquarters at the time, and we were working on a course about teaching IPT leads at NavAir and their teams about small business. And your company was the one that actually wrote the curriculum for us.
Yes.
And I used to come over to your office, your building, and actually co-teach the class.
That's right.
So we've had a lot of good things that have gone on. But I definitely want to flip back a little bit and talk about the beginning and some things that are out there, because there are going to be listeners that maybe don't know a lot about the SDV USB program or, how you got into it. So from a government perspective, I'm going to ask you about, how you got into it and how it benefited you, or some things that maybe were good or maybe not so good about the program. So the federal government does have a program for service-disabled veterans. The federal goal right now is 3% of all prime awards have to go to SDV businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, and 3% also have to go to subcontracting. Kevin, you know that. In 2021, which is the last year that we have the data that's locked down, DOD achieved 3.03. So they just got over the hurdle. So even after years of having a program, the federal government is really just maybe meeting or barely exceeding its goal for prime contractors. Subcontracting, it wasn't a good news story. It was down to 2.4%. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. What does that mean? It means that even we have companies that are highly successful, we still need to do more work. There was a DOD IG report that came out in 2020. I think it was 2020-063, came out in February of 2018. Hard to believe 5 years has gone by, but look at us. You can tell 5 years has gone by. It cited that the government, DOD, had been awarding contracts to non-eligible businesses that were falsely certifying themselves, and also said that they're not tracking compliance with limitations on subcontracting and meeting the requirements, things that you know very well. So there was a lot of things that they said the government has to do, DOD. One thing was they wanted additional training. So DAU, we are getting ready to, and by the time the podcast comes out, this will probably be in effect. We're actually deploying a brand new course. It is about contracting with service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. The designation will be CON 0090. It's a really good course. It is almost a complete rewrite of a legacy course, CLC 009. So it talks all about the program, the benefits, how to use it. It's good for contracting officers. It's great for industry. It's an online course. Anybody can take it, and it addresses some of these issues going forward. So there's a lot of things that are positive. You talked about training that's available. Last night I was actually doing some research on the institute up at Syracuse University. They have this big Veterans Institute. So there's a lot of resources to help veterans get into business. But what happens once you're in business, the sustainment piece or the graduation piece? Let's talk about that. What do you do, Kevin?
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
How'd you get so successful?
Yes. So coaches and mentors and coaches. Early on, Sherman and I we'd tell this funny story that we likened it to running through the forest with our head down, and we would run into a tree, and we stand up and shake our heads and go, "What the hell just happened?"
And Sherman being your
the
guy Jeff,
my business partner, Jeff Sherman, my business partner. And after hitting our head on a dozen trees, we finally decided we could use some help. So we reached out and found a wonderful coach. And we would meet with this gentleman once a week up in Alexandria, Virginia. So we would drive from where we are to there. It's an hour and a half each way. Spend 3 hours sitting in a restaurant in Old Town. And he walked us through the steps of starting a business and helped us get started. That was profound. And not only that, we had mentor companies in the local area. Bowhead helped us get started. Red helped us get started. A big shout out to both of them. They were very instrumental in our start. And so having the right coach and having the right mentors that can show you what to do when things, you just shake your head, go, what do I do now? What do I do with this? Was key. So ever since then, I was very grateful for what they had done. So I've been paying it forward for the last 17 years. I've coached and mentored at least 17 companies over the years. I'm coaching some right now. In fact, I'm in a small business administration approved mentor protege with 2 local companies, taking it to the next level. But you need mentors and coaches.
Talk about that a little bit. You said it's the SBA mentor protege program?
Yes, it is.
They talk about that a little, because that's another way that it's not only coaching and mentoring, like you're talking about, maybe outside of a business relationship. This is a formal relationship.
This is a formal relationship, yeah, for which there is benefits for me, but it's really just kind of formalizing it so that there is a structured approach, and we meet on a regular basis, and we have a way of training them and teaching them on what it is they think they need to be successful. So like how to write a proposal, how to set up your accounting system.
All easy things, right, Kevin?
All easy things, yes. But yeah, we went with the SBA program because at the time we did it, the DoD program was unfunded. It's refunded now, which is great.
It's a good thing,
It's a great thing. So we would definitely like to look at that program and see what we can do there. But it's pay it forward and helping each other all the way along. And so we use mentor companies. We used our coach to get started, and then we got off and running really well. Things went great. And then when it came time to graduate, I realized I needed to train myself, and there was nothing there. I found some seminars out in the commercial world that were very, very helpful. But I really, the trick was I found some coaches, some amazing coaches. At one point, as we were preparing to graduate, I had 5 coaches going at the same time. I had a CEO coach who was showing me what to do, and a CFO coach to showing my accounting team what to do. I had a health coach because I wanted to make sure I was strong enough and healthy enough to do this, very important part of the whole process. I had a strategy coach. I can't remember what the other one.
So the coaches that were other than the health and well-being, which is critical. I mean, we're both retired Navy. We know the Navy is huge about taking care of your families, taking care of your sailors.
Right.
You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your people.
It's key.
And Kevin, every time I come over, your business is immaculate. The people are happy. It's a pleasure to be here. So obviously that's the way you set your tone. But we have to take care of ourselves. And you're no value to anybody, your business, people, the community, if you're not taking care of yourself. So the coaches that were basically either CEOs or CFOs, were they retired or were they still were they in large businesses? Had they done the transition? What attracted you to them?
They all came with a history of having done the role before. So for me, the CEO coach I found through the Inc. CEO project. So we were an Inc. 5,000, company for 10 years in a row, sustained growth.
What does that mean?
That means every year we grew 10 years in a row, which is very unique, especially getting 10 years solid is a very, very, it's like 0.001% of companies grow 10 years in a row. Normally you see companies go up and down. That's more the normal vibe. A lot of companies don't make it past 5 years.
Right. So that's a big hurdle to get over.
That's a big 5 years.
Well, for 10 years steady.
Yes. So it was from that organization I found my CEO coach, and Pam was wonderful. She had done this job before, and she mentored quite a few individuals. She wasn't kind to me, which is exactly what you want in a coach.
Hopefully your health and welfare coach wasn't kind either.
No, he wasn't
kind. So one thing, and I'm just thinking out loud now, I talk and think at the same time, and I move my hands. I'm still flying a helicopter here. There's certainly key attributes that you look for when you're building a business. And I was reading an article the other day where Deion Sanders, who is, Hall of Fame football player, now the new coach at the University of Colorado football program, was talking about recruiting. He says, hey, if I'm recruiting a quarterback or an offensive lineman, I want somebody that comes from, a mother and a father, very structured, smart, 3.4, follows the rules, a leader on and off the program. When I'm recruiting a defensive lineman, I don't want that. I want somebody that's been raised by a single mom, going to protect mom at all costs, and does whatever it has to do to get to the prize. I think the same thing applies in business.
Yes.
The people you recruit. So you've built a very successful business. I think you have around 400 employees?
400.
And how many locations?
We're in 3 large locations, but we're licensed in 21 states.
They're licensed in 21 states. So, okay. And you got 3 large locations.
Yes.
Probably primarily around Navy support because it's probably your core business.
Yep.
So is it a different type of employee that you're going to need if you transition, or do you want?
Yes.
Okay. So talk about that a little bit.
So starting out, it takes 4 types of people. There's several great books I could talk about that we hold up and say that we're following this plan. One was a book called Predictable Success. The gentleman who wrote it, Les McEwen, we found him again at the Inc. 5000 conferences. Phenomenal speaker. His books are just really right on point. He started multiple companies, and he saw that there were basic trends and things that every company does as it grows. And so one of the things he talks about is the types of personalities. He simplifies personality types into 4 roles. He says every great business needs a visionary, someone who can see the future. They need a processor, someone who can structure the way you do business so you become very efficient as you grow. You need an operator, the person who just says, just get out of the way and let me do this. And then you need a synergist to keep everybody happy and cohesive.
So the visionaries, does that have to be at the top?
I think it does. I'm on the scale. There's they have you take a test and figure out how much you are of each category. I was a 99% visionary.
Okay.
They joke in the office, there's a stuffed squirrel. It's a dog toy, but it's a squirrel. And I'm like the dog who chases the squirrel. There's never a good idea or a crazy idea I didn't love.
Well, good thing the door shuts and no squirrels come in.
Squirrels come in. So I'm constantly coming through the door with another great idea.
And they don't want you touching anything, right?
No.
But you're setting the vision. This is where it look like 3, 5, 10 years down the road.
Yes.
You got to sell the vision to them.
Yes.
Okay. So now tell us, first of all, how much did the Service Disabled Veteran Program help you to get going? Did it help you or?
No, absolutely. It helps us. I mean, but timing is everything. So when I started the company in 2006, 2005 is when my partner started it. He was the founder and I joined him in 2006.
And
it was right around that time, coming right out of the 2001, the wars that were going on. The focus from the DOD and from the government really shifted a lot heavily towards service disabled companies.
Right.
And I remember, that there was a big push at that time where there was a big conference. Admiral Shannon came out into the industry and talked about how there's going to be a large focus on service disabled companies. So my timing was perfect. I did lean forward at that time and I joined the small business organization locally. I was the service disabled rep on the board of directors for that organization, which means they looked at me within 2 months of starting the company and said, you're going to hold a workshop for everybody in town to figure out what this means and how to do this. And I was like, trial by fire, right? You truly don't know something until you have to teach it. 2 months in, I had to get smart enough on this to go on stage and teach it to other business owners when I barely know what I'm doing. So it very much helped set the stage for us, gave us opportunities to bid on work that we wouldn't have been able to bid on. Timing was everything. It really was a tremendous help.
I remember back, I think it was about 2008 time when I came into NAV. I was in the industry working for an STVOSB for 5 years. I retired and I was coming up here supporting NAV Air, PMA 299, the best PMA in the Navy, 860 program. And after about a year and a half, they said, hey, you got to move up there. My family's like, we don't want to move out of Virginia Beach. But they asked us on the third time we did it, built a division and got hired into the small business office. But at the time, the director of the Navy Small Business Office, that was one of his strategic goals.
Yes.
The Navy was not doing really well at all. They were well below the 3% goal, and there was a big push. And you were there right on that. The training wheels were off, and that was a time that the Navy was really going after SD, and that really helped you. So here we are now, almost what? You said about 17 years later?
17 years.
I never do math in public. So neither one of us, but you're an engineer. I'm not. I don't like math. So now you're here with great success.
Yes.
There aren't any carrots or sticks that help or push you along as an SDVOSB, because that's just to get you established and give you opportunities, but you want to get an opportunity possibly to launch into a whole new phase, which is graduating from the small business program.
Right.
So what have you found with your research and what are you crafting for a possible strategy, if you don't mind sharing it all?
No, absolutely. Pay it forward, right? I think the biggest problem I notice is a lot of companies that grow, they just get comfortable with the set-aside structure, and as they're getting ready to graduate and they stop and they look around, they look at their portfolio and it's heavily based on small business set-asides. And when you look at your contracts that are coming up for recompete, we noticed that there was a very clear cliff. There was a lot of our contracts were all going to be ending at the same time, right around the time we'd be graduating. So we're sitting there looking going, wow, not only are our contracts coming to an end, but they're all set-aside contracts and we're not going to be able to bid on them again. So what do you do? So it was all of a sudden that scary, oh my goodness moment where you're like, I'm going to have to be bidding full and open. Are we prepared? Do we know what we're doing? How do you do it? It's different. It's very much different. And the structures are different and your rates are different. And so I think the biggest thing as you start to grow, as you're halfway through, don't wait to the bitter end. You need to start practicing full and open bids. You know you're not going to win them, but you got to start practicing. You got to start learning how to do them. Don't wait until it's an emergency. Don't wait until your company's health and life depends on it. So we noticed that and we started looking forward. I mean, we've been planning for graduations years in advance. We held an offsite, a 3-day offsite. We actually had a conversation at the offsite. It started with, do we want to stay small forever? There's a valid approach.
It is. From the government side, we always tell the businesses, those are you, whenever we teach or they market us, it's their business decision.
Yes.
Staying small, being a lifelong subcontractor, growing and out. Those are all business decisions that the businesses have to make for themselves.
Right. So we had a decision, go big or go home or stay small forever. And within 30 minutes, universally, it was a joint decision. It wasn't mine.
And you're primarily an employee-owned company, I believe, too, right?
We're 49% ESOP. That was part of our strategy, was the ESOP. Okay. So we made the decision right there and then, go big or go home. We're going to go for it. So then we started looking at what that means. One of the things, fast forward to today, and I'm looking back, what's unique is I always heard about this $50 million glass ceiling. Companies start to graduate from their size standard. They hit around $50, $60 million, and they get stuck. They bounce off the 60, they go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. Sometimes they dip back down to small business. Why do so many companies, and I can point to quite a few of them, why do they get stuck? And now I'm starting to notice the reason is because not only have you graduated in a bunch of the NAICS codes, but at this size, you're still small in some NAICS codes. So you're bidding on both sides of the spectrum. So you need to keep your rates down to bid on the small, but yet you need the money to build the structure to bid large. So you're competing in the large business with companies that have a lot of money, a lot of people, a lot of resources. And that's why it's very hard to win those full and opens. And yet you're still bidding on the small, so you got to keep things cost effective and down because the rates are much different, the structure's much different. So you're in this weird no man's land. You're too big to be small, you're too small to be big, and it's a very difficult transition. There's a great book out there too called No Man's Land that explains exactly what it's like to be where we are right now.
No man's land probably coming from World War I with trench warfare.
Yes.
Not a good
You're in between the two safe spaces.
And you got shells coming from both sides.
That's right.
So from a government perspective, we always say, a company can be large and small at the same time, which they can be. So when the government's doing market research to find companies, you need to understand that. But it's not simple for the company that maybe be large and small. And for the listeners that maybe don't understand, in government acquisition, businesses are sized by the product or service that they sell, and the SBA using census data sets standards. So there's different industries, and each industry either has a employee-based or a revenue-based size standard. So when Kevin says NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification System, his company is sized on the products or services he sells. In some cases, he may be a large business because he's above a threshold. Other instances, he may be below the threshold and may be a small business. And that's what he's talking about.
Right.
So when you were talking about, preparing, I like sports. I'm a big sports guy. We're getting close to baseball. So I'm thinking you're talking about batting practice. Hit those nice 70-mile-an-hour fastballs for a couple of years and get comfortable. So if you don't mind sharing, have you actually competed and won a couple Fallen Open?
We have started competing. Our first step, well, let me walk through what we did, right? Okay. So with the help of the coaches, we talked about what it is we need to do to graduate strong. This was years ago. It took a year, conversations, research, attending conferences, listening, and then it took me a year to develop the strategy because I put a lot of thought into it. And the end result of which is I have right here. So what the coaches said to me is you need to develop a map, not a business plan, a business map. You need to define a path to the future and understand what you want to be when you grow up. Have a very clear vision. And they said, so write yourself a business map. And so I did. I sat down, put pen to paper, and I started writing everything I learned, everything I studied. And they said, structure it into two pieces, who you are and what you want to be, right from the Brady Bunch. Right. Half my business map, the first half focuses on who we are as a company, our culture, our values, our beliefs, our purpose, our mission. The things that you should never change as you grow because it's who you are at your core. It's your core values. Once you understand what that is, then the other half is your future vision, your envisioned vision of future and what you want to be. And over there, you talk about what is your vision for the future and how are you going to get there specifically, details. So I wrote a vision statement. I have a 20, 40, 60-year vision for the company, very clear. And from there, I broke it down into 5, 10, 20-year goals. These are the things we need to do to get to that vision. And then from the 5-year goals, and see the engineer pilot in me, right?
There you go.
I broke the 5-year goal down into 1, 3, and 5-year objectives. And then the last thing it says that these are our objectives. The last chapter is, this is our corporate strategy. This is what we're going to do to hit these objectives, to hit these goals, to hit that vision.
So you have 20-year goals?
I do. Right here.
From now?
Yes.
Okay, so that might outlive your time with the company?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is not only something that this is Kevin, that
No.
I'm going to be here and I'm going to fly this helicopter on this mission. You're going to be handing off a succession to somebody else that's going to take this mid-mission and drive further.
Yes.
Okay.
So with that, part of the strategy was this can't be just Kevin doing it alone. It can't be just Kevin's vision. It has to be all hands on deck. So part of our strategy was we want to pay it forward to our employees, right? And we want to get them excited about the future, and we want them to participate in the growth of the company. So right out of the bat, the first step we did was we did an employee stock ownership program. We ESOPed 49% of the company. We gave our employees ownership in the company.
By giving them stock, right?
By giving them stock, through the ESOP program, which is a phenomenal program. So that was our first step. The second step is we wanted to increase the number of contract vehicles we could bid on, because all of our work was local, and we had basically 2 contract vehicles that we could bid on. And it worked up until this point. But if we wanted to continue to grow, we had to expand out into new markets, other markets, and we needed tickets to the dance. So our business development team, we restructured. We brought in professional BD folks. We have a very strong business development team and a proposal shop now. First job was to increase the number of IDIQ, multiple award contracts that we could bid on. So we went from 2 to 14 in 1 year.
So are these broader than, are you expanding well beyond Navy business?
Oh,
Is your core business?
yes. So we now have large contracts with the Air Force, with the Army, with the FAA, Department of Transportation. We're hoping to hear from the Department of State soon.
So you go with some of the civilian agencies as well.
And we've gone in outside of DOD. So we're with the U.S. intelligence community.
Okay.
So that was year 1.
Okay.
So now that we have lots and lots of tickets to the dance, the next step is to start shooting at task orders. And some of those contracts are going to be full and open task orders, full and open contract awards. So yes, we've started winning full and open contracts, but they're IDIQ contracts.
That's fine. It's still competition.
Well, you need those to do it. You need the ticket to the dance.
A firm foundation
Yes.
to build on. So right now, the Department of Defense, really big push on equity,
Yes.
underserved communities, underserved individuals,
Yep.
looking at innovation. The DOD has been bleeding small businesses for about 10 years. We're down about 40% since about 2011. So one of the focuses from the President to the Secretary of Defense is rebuilding the defense industrial base. Are those things going to be competing against what you're trying to do? Or are they going to help you with this focus on equity and innovation and things, or are they kind of noise? Or how is that impacting you and some of the decisions you're making?
Definitely going to be helpful.
Okay.
So it's attracting talent, finding talent, bringing talent in, and maintaining the talent. So from our company culture, finding talent is the easy part, keeping them is the hard part. It's the same thing with being an entrepreneur. Making the money is easy, keeping the money is hard. So it's the same philosophy. So having a focus on that and broadening our horizons is definitely something we need to be doing.
So you think employee retention is going to become a bigger issue for you if you take that large step?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's about connectedness, right? What makes an employee want to come to a company and stay there and not chase the almighty dollar? It's that connectedness. It's that feeling of you're making a difference in your job day to day, like you have a purpose. So you need to have a strong culture as a company. Peter Drucker, Culture Eats Strategy for Business for breakfast. How do you do that, and how do you attract that talent in every market across the nation? So you need to be broadening your search. The equity piece is very, very important too.
Well, I keep thinking there's a book out there that says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Yeah, as a man thinketh, right?
That's right. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Kevin knows that as well. There you go. So commendable for you to do that. And not only did you do it, it's already been published and everything ready to go.
It's been published. I've shared it with a lot of people. They all laugh at me because it's 100 pages.
It's okay.
That's the engineer in me.
So take 100 pages.
Yes.
And sell that to me in 30 seconds. What's the big step or big step or 2 big steps that you need to do between now and this transition that you got to go after?
I want to establish myself as a bespoke services company. I want to have unique solutions that customers are looking for to solve the problems that are really hurting their heads and giving them pain in their hearts. It's not just your generic solution to every acquisition problem, but there's always an underlying something there, and trying to figure out what that is. And with that, part of our biggest move here is we want to become trusted advisors to all of our clients. So we spend a lot of time. We created an avian leadership development program within the company to start training our young employees and employees new to the workforce on what it means to be a trusted advisor, what it means to turn your clients into raving fans. How do you do it? It's an art form. So we focus a lot of energy on how to be a very professional, bespoke company. We're going to be the Sam Adams of the defense services.
Sam Adams, okay, another great American patriot. I love it. I love it. Kevin, I think you and I could go for hours on this.
I think we
background and what I'll say out of the engineering, I'll leave that up to Kevin. I'll take the non-engineering perspective here, but this has been great. So what would you want to close with? What would be what's your get off the stage message for the audience?
So when I first started the company, I did a lot of reading, trying to figure out what I was doing. And I noticed that there were 4 things that every book I read had associated with. There was just a different theme on 4 things. If you want to be successful, you can't be afraid, right? It takes a lot of strength to get out there, because when things get hard, it's easy to quit. You have to have a mentor. You have to self-educate. I even at this point, I'm constantly, if you look in my office, I got probably over 100 books in there, and people say, have you read all these? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. And I'm constantly going to seminars. I'm constantly talking, and you just got to have a strong passion for what you're doing. You got to believe in what you're doing. So between courage, passion, educating yourself, I think of the 4, the most important part is you can't do it alone. You have to have a really good mentor or coach.
It's a team sport.
It is a team
sport. Team sport. Being in business is a team.
Got to have someone that's been there, done that, who will challenge you. And the mentor, they're not there to be your friend. They're there to challenge your critical thinking and to push you.
So that's a good point. So don't pick somebody that's going to think like you and pat you in the back because you're
not a family member.
Sliced bread, not a family member.
Yes.
Pick somebody that's going to look you in the eye and tell you the hard news, right?
Well, yeah, my one CEO coach said, Kevin, you hired me to turn your good company into a great company. We've been at it for a year and you haven't done anything yet. Okay. That was a knife in the heart, right?
That's a hard breakfast to
swallow. Yeah, and I just like, oh, crap.
That's like being out there at night.
It's like, come on,
being out
do something.
Low on fuel, bad weather. Where's the dang ship?
Where's the dang ship? Yeah, and you can't see through the clouds.
There you go. So before we close, if somebody's really interested in your company or what you're doing, how are they going to find out about you? Where do they go?
Oh, they see Ian.
Say,
go do our podcast.
Okay. So is there information on your podcast of how to contact?
No, I'm just joking.
I know.
Yeah.
Ian's the podcast guru. He's doing great. But how somebody get some young college graduate out there that hears what you're doing, says, man, I want to go work for Kevin's company. Ian did a great job on the podcast. How do they get a hold of you? How do they find your company?
They go to my website, they find my email address, and they email me. We're a small business. I'm very passionate about what we do, and I joke all the time that I still wash dishes. There's a thing we do in-house. It's called Coffee with Kevin, coffee with a K.
Right.
I have coffee with people all the time. People I don't know reach out to me and just say, can we go have a cup of coffee? I'm transitioning. I'm retiring. I'm thinking of starting my own business. I'd like to know what you think about what I need to focus on. Pay it forward, serendipity. I'm a big believer in all of that.
What's your website?
So it's avian.com.
Okay.
Yes. So
awesome.
I'd come have a cup of coffee with you. I do it all.
I
work for peanuts and beer.
I had to buy my coffee at Wawa this morning. Evan, come on.
Yeah.
So for me, this has been all. I really enjoyed this. I think you could build a series on this whole thing. So from a DAU perspective, you can get a hold of DAU, www.dau.edu. It is the educational arm of DoD. We're established by federal law to train the acquisition workforce in DoD on acquisition. So lots to go forward to you. I'd love to hear feedback from you on the podcast. Any additional training that we can bring you out of DAU. We do webinars all the time. Take a look at our homepage on events. And I hope you're challenged by this podcast. Kevin, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this time with you.
Yes.
And to our listeners,
a lot of fun.
Have a great day and a great Navy day. Fly Navy.
Go Navy.
Go Navy.